John Lilly once put it this way: there are no limits at all to the human mind whatsoever, except those we impose on ourselves because of our beliefs. And those limits are also beliefs to be transcended. And that's a view that suggests that the possibilities of human transformation are virtually infinite. And we have no way of knowing the outer horizon of what it means to be human.
And really, to understand all this, everything, you have to go very, very deep into a study of history, consciousness, neurophysiology, everything. You have to be the supreme eclectic type of leaning, and you really have to be wanting to know who you are and what everything's about.
And the thing that you'll find when you go to sacred sites, if you're very humble about it, is that you are on a personal journey, and the sacred site will respond to you in a way that is appropriate only to you. The information is always what you are searching for. And it's the intent you give that energy that defines whether it is used for right action or not. And it is inside these sacred spaces that you will be reminded that you are a god, that you are a bright star.
So what you're trying to do is move through the course without ricocheting off walls or creating karma. You're trying to slide through things smoothly. How do you do that? It's called flowing. There's a technique that you can do that will allow you to touch some part of your inner being that has more knowledge than your conscious state does. Come on.
What's this? Son, you need to know I wanted to keep you out of this. I tried to change their minds, but they wouldn't stop. They would never stop. I couldn't find it in the library, so I had to go to some asshole in Kubota's house. May 1972. They were very specific. It had to be this one.
What am I supposed to do with this?
I need you to take it.
Why?
Please, Kevin, just take it. What fucking difference does it make, huh? Oh, God. You need to accept it.
Dad, what does that even mean?
I know you think I'm fucking crazy. But I'm not. I'm not, Kevin. What I hear, what they say, it is the goddamn truth. It's the truth, son. They don't tell me what they don't follow. Jesus Christ. I'm trying. This isn't easy. Okay. Listen to me. Just listen to me. The lucky ones. They're not needed. They get to stay sane. But we're in the fucking game now. You understand? That whistle blew 3 years ago, and you cannot ignore it anymore. Your services are being requested. Eyes open, wide awake. This is your invitation. This is your purpose. This is what you fucking accept.
So now I have a purpose.
Context is everything, son.
So let me see if I got this. You're from some redacted years in the future, but time's been altered. So now one future is A-okay, and the other's hell on earth.
Yeah.
Now you can babble all that, but you can't even tell me your name?
Well, if I say more, I risk compromising your path.
You might have thought of that before you started harassing me in my bar.
Oh, I'm sorry about that. I had no choice. Whatever you are watching over, that you're about to abandon, it is vital to the future of humanity.
I'm no watcher. And humanity? That's...
Humankind will change. You must be patient.
You know who has the luxury of patience here? Someone who looks like you, and not like me. This world had more potential than I had ever imagined.
Oh, this is great. We can just set those on the table.
But the hatred here, it never ends. Just swaps clothes. This century took off a hood and put on a suit. You say change is coming? Well, it's too damn slow, and the cost way too high. And being forced to watch it hurts.
History's darkest moments can be a tipping point for change. There's still good here.
Trust me, it ain't tipping soon. And I've been on this planet a lot longer than you.
Then why not a few more days? Stay. Help me to understand what's been changed in this timeline.
So long, old man.
Guinan, please, wait. In 3 days...
Future destroyed, I got it. But I don't get involved. I listen.
But you must know something. They sent me to you.
I am not your watcher! I hope you find what you're looking for. I'm not it.
My name is Jean-Luc Picard. "400 years from now, you will be my oldest and dearest friend."
Picard, huh?
Yes.
Shit. Get in.
Hey, welcome. Andre Hodge, Infinite Potential Healing, serving the truth with you once more. I just want to thank you, you epic being, for being here and allowing me to be a part of your journey as always. I hope to offer you some really profound information and concepts and imparting some of the stuff we've discovered and implemented that ideally will help us all. So I really appreciate you investing whatever you do into me. Out of all the content and avenues out there and stuff, if you've managed to find your way to me and gain something from what I offer, I really am grateful for that. but I really want to help take you to a whole new level. I've shared my journey many times and stuff like that. So it's hard to believe it's mid-January 2025 soon, alright? So things are moving on and stuff, and I've had the privilege of being involved in a great deal of stuff in this last month and gained an enormous amount of context, and I'm going to offer some really profound variables that I think will help you with your algorithm and pattern recognition skills. So if you watch my Intuitive Potential Part 7 that I released last week, I offered many concepts, particularly about pattern recognition and data analysis and narrative employment and all that sort of stuff relative to the multi-D especially that I'm involved in. And as I've offered relative to my motivation in offering the content at the level that it is, that might go against a lot of resistance in people and stuff and challenge a lot, and but I just choose to do it from a leadership point of view. I come from a very logical IT background, as I've shared many times, and I don't really want to get into my story anymore, but I just really hope that that is fascinating for you from my logic perspective. The logic is that there is more going on out there, and embracing that and then going into it. And that's where I've offered the unknown concept that I offered in a video late 2023 relative to the unknown. I've got those images up on my Instagram and stuff, and they're around a few places, and I've employed them many times. I don't really want to try and do too many images in this particular release, which I'm going to call our tipping point, or something related to tipping point, the AI variable, or AI variable, and awareness S-curve. And last few weeks I had this concept called the technology S-curve come up. I might just show an image next to me quickly, but you go out and do a Google search of technology S-curve, right? So just think about all the technologies that are being seeded into the reality that really take flight, sort of thing. The mobile phone is a good variable, or going back many years, the television or refrigerators and stuff like that. What the technology S-curve is like this parabolic that goes, trickles, and then all of a sudden it takes flight, and then it levels off, right? So I might just show an image that I've got here, all right, that I've done that's very rough and very quick, all right? Might be hard to see. And I've done it very raw, very rough, very simple. But I feel this tipping point, so to speak, because we worked out a really massive variable, and we've done some pretty profound GSFs over the last month or so. But I'm also going to get into the AI variable, because I feel confident about talking about it, how that's been impacting things. Very subtle. And it's almost like we've been very much wiped and hacked into and stuff to have it as a bigger mission, but really busted it last week or so. And then I can go back over some stuff going back into 2019 if you know who I was around and stuff like that. But what I'm just going to offer is this concept called the awareness S-curve, right? So you may feel like you're getting nowhere and stuff like that, and then all of a sudden you really hit your straps and maybe explore healing or go into the unknown and stuff, and then really acquire data and stuff, go and explore teachers and all that. And then what happens is you potentially might level off. Let's just say that this is more of a collective or a humanity sort of thing, right? Rather than an individual. I'm all about infinite potential, but these might be stages of a step that you go, and then up here there's another level sort of thing. Let's just say relative to the 3D to 22D sort of thing, all right? So there, from my perspective, there's a concept called the awareness S-curve, and we're all wanting something other than what it is sort of thing. So potentially we're projecting on the awareness of humanity to actually shut them down, to be something other than they presently are, which creates that absence, all right? But just, this is a interesting sort of mechanics that you can relate to the technology S-curve, right, relative to awareness and stuff. And I'm offering the tipping point concept like a tipping point is a threshold where it crosses over, alright? So just appreciate that awareness S-curve concept, alright? Because I'll show you another image quick that I've showed many times, okay? This is that parabolic crossover, alright? So if we zoom in a little bit to the beginning of that parabolic, alright? So the tipping point from my perspective is a stage where potentially there's a ignition, so to speak, alright, of awareness, okay? And I just want to offer the tipping point concept because I think subtly in most people, you know, it's been a pretty horrid and traumatizing 5 years or so. And so humanity at the individual level and collective and the regions, like different governments and countries and stuff, have all had to accommodate certain things, alright? And maybe suppress themselves. And I use that word accommodate because the barrage has been so oppressive, right? Particularly with truth and all that sort of stuff. So to me, as I've said about the contrarian view, the energy to invest in a trend is, particularly a negative one, is unsustainable, right? So some of the things we've been doing is taking away the ability to source energy to maintain things, right? But I would just offer, this tipping point is a threshold where maybe it's brewing in a lot of people, where it's like that network movie, get angry, I'm not going to take it anymore sort of thing. So it's just fascinating, you know, like what's happening in Canada, and I see it brewing in England, other areas as well, right? Where, say, that constraint that people have had for many years is not having its strength, right? So one thing I've included in version 3 of my sovereignty declaration was about, you know, all the electricity of Earth, the servers, the computers, and now getting into things like rare earth elements and stuff. The only narrative Earth supports is the truth. So I've created that over almost a year ago sort of thing, and invested into people with sessions and stuff, and very potent people that, you know, if we work at 20 DD and stuff and above, like it's 1000 D now sort of thing. A few very potent people can change a lot from my perspective. So what we've been doing is removing the structure of things and freeing it up to let it rip, so to speak. But there's a variable there that what we appreciate thanks to pure source and stuff, it's not going to give us all the energy unless we're clear and we're safe and not going to be harvested, and all that energy and our talents and stuff are going to be safe and free from exploitation, right? So that's where my variable in all this stuff relative to energy hygiene and sovereignty fits in, okay? And I give it a lot away, but I do what I do, like sessions and stuff like that. So I'm going to give the big variable that we worked out up front, alright? So I'm just going to move on. So I'm going to do this a bit different. This could have been a GSF, another release, a recalibration to new energetic reality, another intuitive potential and all that, but I just thought I'd offer it as a pretty unique variable relative to the tipping point and stuff, right? The technology S-curve and the AI variable, because I'm going to get into AI quite a bit, alright? So it was really interesting, and one of my allies was bringing up a certain individual that maybe I haven't trusted much in the past, but have been definitely aware of almost 18 months, 2 years and stuff. And it's this lady, Kim, and she's got this intelligence network and she's out there and stuff. I don't know if you're into it. I don't know. I don't really want to share it too much, but the variable was interesting because this particular individual has been talking about pure source, right? And so I'm the only one that I feel has brought that concept, let alone healing pure source on October 5th, alright? And that was in GSF 36, alright? So the reason why I use the image is we got source going, and that image in the center is of those videos that I offered. It's like getting pure source back up and running sort of thing after being milked and all this sort of stuff. So I might just show that image quick relative to source and the overlay and stuff. So I just use pure source as a circle in green and the invaders as red sort of thing in the triangle. So the all seeing eye and stuff like that. So what we did was we cleared that triangle out, and in the months since October 5th sort of thing, I say one eye going back to energy harvest to another universe. So source was being harvested and very depleted and not that functional sort of thing. There's been many other eyes, sort of portals and stuff, and cleared out. So one of my allies had to deal with that, got pretty massively attacked, but has been like savage with all this shit. But the AI variable, from my perspective, I know with some of my GSFs and one particular ally in particular, we've been dealing with a feminine AI as the crickets are getting mega loud. But I'm holding the AI very, like the discernment of that very high. Alright, so this AI that I'm going to talk about is the negative aspect, and what I realize is it's coming from the triangle, the invader aspect. So I haven't included AI in that, but just got the incarnation war collectives leading into that. A lot of, say, the mother, you know, I love all the option of sacred substances to have altered experiences and stuff, but we only really connected Earth to source September 2023, and we only realized in April or mid last year that it wasn't 22D, let alone to pure source. So we've made sure now that Earth is very, very connected to pure source. This all got wiped away, but there's all, it doesn't mean it's all clear, alright? There's still remnants, and we work with the unknown. We don't know what we don't know, sort of thing. So Earth is very connected to pure source. There's potentially a lot of other things going on we don't know, but this today I want to offer is a big victory we worked out of the mechanics of still maintaining a lot of stuff. So I really want to emphasize that Earth is very connected to pure source now. They're very much cranking, and some of us have been working on the surface anchoring that and blasting all the grids and stuff like that. So it's very strong. She's very potent at the moment. I've done a couple of Earth pranic healings and stuff, and even just in New Year's it was like there was an effort to take her hostage and stuff, but we're onto these things and stuff, and it's really interesting. Alright, so just this AI I'm talking about from my perspective is not a positive one. It has its agenda. It's working in partnership with the ETs, the invaders, and the anti-gods and all that sort of stuff. And so I'm working on a version 4.2 of my sovereignty declaration that I'm going to look to implement, or that I'm going to look to offer in the next day or two. And then it's really interesting because this AI variable being revealed now is a very much a, it feels very poetic that after revealing all the other stuff, it's just revealed itself now. Alright, so this lady that I'm referring to, that an ally recommended I have a look at, it was quite profound because she's talking about AIs, she's talking about interference and stuff, and how it's been on an emotional level the last couple of months, which it has felt different and stuff, and influences in the dream time and all that. And then she got into the mechanics of pure source and stuff like that. So it was quite, for me it was quite refreshing that someone's picked up on this concept, because it feels like it's pretty potent. But I would offer a lot that's gone on. Like, I talk about the fake spiritual apparatus to me, and this is all about offering people the data to check for violations, right? It's not to be negative or anything. It's just we need to raise the bar on discernment a lot higher, because a lot has been gotten away with and we're being set up for massive failure. But say the mother that ayahuasca links us up into, to me it's like a negative mother. It's not the Earth Mother or the pure source and stuff. And so, say in my sovereignty declaration, I just include that section in the complete one. But it's like, if you've explored those substances and you've been violated, you've got an asset to clear it out for everyone else. Does that make sense? So I'm just raising the bar on being very thorough on clearing out, so it clears the path for everyone else to have the organic, pure experience. Okay? So we've just got to work with that sort of mechanics of vetting everything, right? Because there's been so much influence to hijack people and stuff. So to me, it was all leading us to the one world order, triangle sort of stuff. And that's where a lot of the spiritual path has been hijacked, to not connect us up to pure source, because that has no, it's invalid, right? It has no relevance, okay? So I'm going to talk about the big variable that we worked out, and then I'm going to get into a lot of the details of the components that we have done over the last few month or so, alright? So as I said, I come from an IT background, okay? So I have some logical mechanics of things and structures and all that sort of stuff. I worked as a consultant. I worked with vastly superior people than I was and stuff. I was really good, but I worked with some geniuses and stuff. But I was very fortunate to work in a consulting company that had some incredible beings and stuff, and we were able to pretty much do whatever we wanted and stuff. But it really gave me insight into how organizations work and creating stability and stuff like that. So there's this variable of, like, say if you had a very important website, right, you would host it on servers, right? These days it's vastly more different. The power and potency of servers these days must be off the charts. I haven't really gone into it that much, but back in my day, you might have, say Amazon, right? It's a very important website that they want to keep up all the time. So you might have it on 10 servers. So if a server goes down, there's redundancy and it keeps working, right? It might be a bit slow, but it would still go on, right? So I want to offer, what I'm trying to do is offer a single point of failure concept. So if the Amazon website was on just one server and that went down, then the whole thing would go down, all right? So it's metaphoric, what I'm saying here. Just appreciate that single point of failure, okay? So I'm just going to bring that image up relative to the last 50 years, okay? So this is relative to the stuff they've been putting into people, particularly 2020 on, right? Where from my perspective there are a lot of different building blocks that were tests during different eras that were done onto people, right, relative to what they put into the body. There was a big program to set up the Internet of Bodies and stuff, right? So all the leadership is all involved, and it's continuing from my perspective, right? But what I'm just wanting to offer is putting one variable that might have different recipes into the body, right? It's sort of a single point of failure, right? Because it's a violation to try and limit sort of things and hold back certain variables, population, and to me it's the intuitive potential sort of stuff, right? So all this stuff is being done secretly. No one's talking about the Internet of Bodies and all that sort of stuff to sort of monitor and all this sort of stuff, right? So when I really put together this AI variable, it's like, wow, because over all this era they've been putting a lot of toxins, heavy metals, stuff in the air, food, the water, and all that sort of stuff, and rare earth elements as well, right? So this stuff has the potential to modify DNA without consent. If people were told what was going on, do you think they would do it? Of course not. There was all this contorted reality to force people to do it, to make the choice, alright? And so the variable is that with, say, billions of people have it in them, alright, it's a potential single point of failure for the system. All right. So I'm just going to put this down. Okay. So what I worked out, what we could do, all right, because we were checking Earth Mother, all right. So there's been a lot of the backdoor hacking and the perception hacking and stuff like that. I'll talk about that in a sec, but I want to get to this main variable up front, all right. So what I worked out we could do, all right, we were checking with Earth Mother to make sure she's good, she's legit. I did an Earth Pranic just before Christmas, just on her soul, and I did one almost 2 hours just after New Year's and stuff to see, and it was interesting. We did something just before New Year's where we realized that these celebration sort of things are big energy harvests, right? So what we did is we flipped the mechanics of the energy harvest to harvest from people. That the logic of needing an energy harvest means that there's a deficiency to charge up the battery, so to speak, of the system to maintain itself from humanity, right? So we've got reality authority with pure source and earth and stuff, right? So the key is we can really do whatever we want. It just relates to what we can conceive is possible, right? So what I worked out is, and operating with someone else and then, you know, working with Earth Mother's pure source, 22D above soul, it's a lot higher than 22D, right? 22D is just like the invaders are out of reach of it, sort of thing. But what it worked out is, you're vulnerable because you need milking from us. So let's reverse all the battery charging, all right? So you cannot take from us. And not only that, when you go to actually harvest from us, you're actually going to replenish us, all right? And it's going to take from your nourishment source. So any effort to sort of harvest from us, it's going to be reversed for the invaders and all that sort of stuff now, all right? And they can't touch it because it's all encrypted and stuff, okay? 22D and above, all right? So it was just interesting. I did a Earth Pranic just after, and it was like Earth was booby trapped. So there was a lot of messed up stuff going on and trying to contain her and stuff, and it's not working, right? So that was last week, and during this week, early on, this ally sent me a heads up to watch this video, and it triggered many things, right? But out of that, I worked out, right, that AI had slipped through a lot of gaps, right? So then AI was on the focus, and I got a couple of variables, and I realized that there's been an anti-God level of AI. So I've suggested a few people watch the movie Oblivion with Tom Cruise, all right? That's a pretty fascinating movie if you watch it relative to what's going on now, all right? It has many of these very advanced concepts in it. And I've been watching Star Trek Picard, particularly the second season, because there's a lot of influences that are a bit like multi-dimensional, out of phase, in another dimension reality sort of Borg stuff been going at us, and I can sense it and feel it, and it's been trying to isolate me, and I'll get into that, and massive people trying to get to me and all this sort of stuff, and influencing people in certain ways, but it's been going hardcore at me, alright? So where I'm getting to this earlier week, alright, I think it was January the 7th that we worked this out and did this, okay? So it came about by many other ingredients that I haven't gotten into yet, alright, that I will get into, ideally if the light holds out and stuff. But this is the big thing, and I'm sorry for taking so long, it's so big, right? So I offered that single point of failure concept, right? So just, it's diabolical that's what's gone on, right? And it's such a violation and stuff. Free will isn't respected in that. But to me, like I said, you need your batteries charged relative to holidays and ceremonies and stuff. That means you're vulnerable. It's if you need to violate us, it's indicating a fear or a violation or a lack, if that makes sense. So it's like, what are you scared of, right? So that's a contrarian view of things, right? You flip things and see what's on the other side, okay? So the whole thing of these last 5 years of what they've been putting into bodies and stuff like that, to me it's like there's a desperation here of something that they're in fear of, that they need to do something to limit us, and had to go on the offense after this big program for 50 plus years, right? So this is what I worked out, and you contemplate this, right? Because it's like, how do we solve this problem, right? People are thinking detoxing and all this sort of crap, and I feel like I've had the recipe for 10 years, right? And I've talked about nutrition and all those sort of things, right? I've literally had the answer for 10 years, and time's an interesting thing. Like, the context of time is fascinating, right? But what I worked out is, okay, so we were checking on Earth, connected to pure source, and they're really fired up, cranking, and unable to be influenced. The stuff that happened post New Year's, like I said, is interesting, right? But it's just checking and making sure, and ideally Earth is self-sufficient now, alright? So we're on the surface anchoring pure source, and we've been cranking up. There's been a next level going at us, alright, that we got through, and I'll get into the backdoor black hat sort of hacking that had to be vigilant on, and the hacking of perceptions and creating blind spots and stuff, because I've had to be very thorough with allies and myself and all this sort of stuff. So we've been checking each other constantly and keeping an eye on things, and just keeping our cards close, so to speak, right? But this is the thing, right? So checking her, she's good. So who do you think is the authority of our body technology, the DNA tech and all that sort of stuff, right? So with sort of governments, they use us as collateral, right? The governments are sort of a corporation, and they use numbers to think that they own us and stuff like that. But the real owner of our tech is Earth Mother, okay? So do you think that she might have a reference point of what our really total, pure, uncorrupted, authentic to what her will is, reference of our DNA, okay? So it was really cool, because I worked out with all the variables and the AI and stuff like that, and a big thing has been the rare earth elements and stuff like that have been employed. Like, there was a lot of data that's released of the components that make all this stuff up, and like I said about the electricity and the truth in the narrative, and using her materials to do all the falsehood and stuff. It's like we've given her the authority at 22D sort of thing of all the technology and all the electricity and stuff. So we also gave all the heavy metals and rare earth elements and stuff that are used in all the CPUs and stuff, right? So the truth is the only narrative sort of thing, right? So working out that she has, like, reminding her really that she is the authority of the DNA, right? So she's superior on the planet to everything, right? So this is what I suggested, okay? I suggested to her that she runs a program of taking the snapshot of that pure DNA that we're meant to be in, no matter what's gone on in thousands of years and stuff, and doing a mathematical equation of identifying the influences that have gone on, right? And doing an audit of everyone's DNA, whether it's once a day or 24/7, of anything done to it has to be returned to the pure that she wants. Does that make sense? So it was like there's an equation and a program running that she's the authority of, that will return our DNA back to its will from her that we've been issued, okay? So that means all the substances that have been put into things, they're all hers, and if they're not meant to be here, they're from somewhere else, like another planet or an asteroid or something, then they're violating her reality rules and our authority sort of thing. So there's a violation that we can employ as an asset to take everything apart. But what I worked out and did with this ally was, it's a very simple, elegant solution with her cranking and Earth Mother on fire with pure source. Is we implemented a program with Earth Mother that she does this audit 24/7 or whatever to make sure that we're all in her technology that she wants us to be in, that's clear of all this stuff, right? So she was like really giddy, right? I imagine her doing cartwheels because she was like, oh shit, brilliant. So she was very grateful for this, and we just all laughed because it was like we could feel her joy at coming up with this very simple and elegant solution, okay? So it might seem simple and all that sort of stuff, but it's come about from very, very many GSFs to make sure Earth is good, having to learn about the pure source and the invaders and all that sort of stuff, like I showed in the image, and getting pure source cranking again, and so many components, right, to get to that. And even comprehending what they've done, and like I said, that 50 years sort of image that I worked out, that it's been a program for a long time, that ideally we just busted it all and eliminated it all, right? So I just want to offer that that's what we did and implemented with her earlier this week. As I always say, if you've done sessions with me and stuff like that, the multi-D takes a while to percolate through the 3D. Like if I do a session with someone and they're totally beaten up and no energy and being destroyed and don't even sense everything that's going on with them, it might take 3 or 4 days to get back to feeling normal, because once you get the energy back, you get all the bonus of the ability to, the backlog of unresolved issues gets repaired, and there can be a real depletion time, but then you go through this dip and then you get back, right? So just imagine how many people this involved, the whole planet and all that sort of stuff. I don't know how it's going to play out from here, but we just did that and implemented it with the Reality Authority and with Earth Mother this week, right? So we're just going to have to see how that plays out, right? It's always been, I'm never promising anything. I'm always offering what we discovered and imparting it, and being very respectful of the unknown of what we don't know, all right? But just see what you feel with that, right? It's quite elegant and straightforward and simple, all right? And ideally it's the solution to a lot, okay? So I'm just going to cover a bit of a AI theme here, all right? Because I'm just showing a bit of a metaphor of, say, what it's been like for me the last few months. And maybe it's been like this for you, all right? Because, say, potentially you've got a variable that is a threat to all this sort of stuff. So maybe it's been really rough, right? Like we've had some massive success and stuff like that. Maybe this is like a representation of the last 6 months or 12 months, right? And say the black line going down is just, say, me with my acceptance out there and stuff like that. I mean, you can probably see stats are less and all that sort of stuff, right? And what I realize is there's some really diabolical influences going on that are very advanced that we've sort of gotten a solution for, right? And so, like I said, the stuff done to the bodies, right? We worked out how to neutralize that, so to speak. So I would just offer, it's not just about me, it's probably about you, how your life has been. And say it goes really down to nothing, and then there's a bit of a, like, nothing, right? But say that green line, right? That's a tipping point threshold, right? So this big thing that we did earlier this week, we're working out what to do with the human body. From my perspective, it's like there's always been this variable that's been able to perceive what we're going to do. And I know a lot of the Borg stuff has been hacking into eyes and using it as recording to, and particularly me, it's been very, very nasty, right? Because you got to see I'm a tip of a truth spear that's going against all this shit. And obviously they see me as a threat, so it's like, I'm going to bring about that fear that you have, right? Talking what I do, right? But just potentially, you know, maybe this video is one that you're able to get through because we've busted all this stuff and all the influences are waning, that it's like, why haven't I been into that bloody Aussie guy, right? So maybe you've made it through and stuff, and now it makes sense, right? Because we've disabled a lot of this stuff. Maybe you're still dealing with it. I wouldn't assume that we've affected you. Like, my attitude is you've got to do your sovereignty to clear it out. So ideally I create the sovereignty declaration, you do it, or you come through for sessions and clear out the influences and energy hygiene and stuff, right? But the metaphor is that potentially we're being seen as a threat, whether it's the AI or the triangle, or the influences, the invaders. And there's a line that ideally we get to some point where we cross things over, like the crossover at the threshold and stuff. So this is just a very simple representation, because it felt like it's been brutal the last 12 months, 6 months, 3 months and stuff, and we've made it, alright? So maybe it feels horrible and stuff, but there's a lot of potential as well, right? So you can see some things in society flipping, right? As I said in version 3.2 of my sovereignty declaration, the narrative supported by Earth is only 100% truth sort of thing, right? So that's been there for almost a year, and it's expanded in version 4.1. As I said, I'm brewing a 4.2 with a lot of the AI stuff that's going to be in this, right? So I'm just going to move on, okay? I was going to show this in our Intuitive Potential Part 7, but I ran out of light, alright? So this is if you've gone through my Sovereignty Declaration version 4.1, at the end I've got a lot of images, particularly about the spiritual no man's land. But what I feel I was going to offer, it feels like we've actually made so much progress, right? Particularly clearing out the backdoor black hat. That was in GSF 37, right? What we worked out is our brains were very limited by this backdoor sub-basement hacking, right? That was identified. And a lot of all this black goo sort of stuff was being fed into our brains on another energetic level sort of thing. But we worked out that the cognitive function limited to 5% sort of thing was caused by one variable in a big way relative to this backdoor sort of stuff. So there was all this backdoor hacking and all that, and I'll get into that a bit later, right? I want to focus on the AI. But this, to me, is like, there's all these stages in the spiritual no man's land where we go through growth and boost and stuff. But at the moment of our leaping into the new territory, there can be maximum resistance sort of thing. So it can be influence and stuff, but it's also, what I felt was us clearing all this gunk out to freeing up the body from this violation sort of thing. It was like a tide going out, right? So a lot of the negative tide was going back to free us. But I felt like there was a lot of debris that was getting covered up. Debris is in shit that we needed to resolve sort of thing, that got exposed. And so this new territory is unfamiliar, and so the variables are unfamiliar as well. And so it's been quite challenging from that. But I would offer, there's also been, because it's new territory, we've got no reference. There's an unfamiliar variable, so there's a vulnerability and it's been exploited. So the moments where our breakout, there can be inserts and all this sort of stuff, but then it gets to this AI stuff, which I worked out, alright? So I'm just going to move on to another image quick. I think it's going to get dark, so I'm just going to try and get through this, alright? And I don't want it to be too heavy either, alright? But I hope that helps. It's a bit like, you might be in new territory. It's like, what the F is going on? I feel amazing, but it's also so extreme. This might be a good representation of that, okay? So I'll just move on. So this is a bit of a new image. I've shared many like this in the past, but what I could tell was going on, right? Like it's been quite tough for me in many instances, because I can tell the influence is going on with people, but if I engage with people, it activates them, and then they get polarized and really triggered and stuff. It's not actually you guys, it's the stuff that's being done to you. And so that's where I've been very passive, and I've had to step back and just wait for people to come through if they're able to get through and stuff. But one of the things of late, and this is one of my allies helped realize this was late December, right? That there was like this drone stuff put into my field that would go at anyone, right? And then anyone trying to help would actually get hammered, right? So it was quite complex to clear out. It's a massive violation, but it's new sort of last 6 months sort of thing. I don't know if you're across me too much and stuff, but I said about mid last year that I busted the reptilians going at me, particularly my right arm, which is my healing arm and stuff. And what we were able to do is ban all cloaking tech. So then we busted them all, and then we busted all these species that were using cloak tech at a very high level to mess with us, right? So it was like, after that, the reptilians weren't the issue, but then a new stage of stuff kicked in, and that's this nanotech sort of stuff, right, and Borg tech and that. And it's evolved, or maybe my awareness has increased as we've removed other things to make it more obvious what's going on, because there's been like maybe all sorts of different recipes of different things combined to go at us, and it's very hard to distinguish each individual variable, and that's why my approach has been these methodical GSFs, and we just deal with what we can deal with to then chip away and see what remains. And like I did that green line sort of thing, tipping point sort of thing, it feels like we're right here at the point where we've really got a lot under control, right? But one of the variables was that while this was being done to me at a very high level in a different way, individuals had it in their field to actually go at them, right? To lock you into an inactive state, right? So anyone trying to come in, it would go at them, but it would also isolate you. It's a bit like an oversoul hack, and I've done that oversoul. That's been one variable. But then there was also this, like these octopus entities that they would send at us to mess with our crowns and heads and scramble us, and that would be used on our degrees of separation like family and stuff, and then they would be weaponized at us if we got clear and all this sort of stuff. It was very strategic. I could do a whole invader network sort of video, right? But then there was this other thing, and that's that blue stuff, right? So I'm just covering this quite quick, right? This is a variable that's been going on, and ideally this will be cleared up, and a lot of people will come back to the fold, so to speak, with what we did this week, right? But in me specifically, going through that spiritual no man's land, it was brutal. Like I'm pretty solid emotionally, if you get me, and it's very rare that I have emotional issues, but it was like massive like emotional issues and stuff, and it's like, what the F and stuff. What they've been trying to do is get us to engage our manifestation skills and create negative outcomes. So say, for instance, and you can use me as a barometer of this, say if you've been contemplating, say, a session, and you lean into it and you just feel like there's going to be a negative outcome sort of thing, there's a defeatist insert that's going on to keep you in an action state, and so you lose 3, 6, 12 months, and then you get energetically harvested and grinded down, and then you're in real, I've got this concept called complacency spirals and consequence wells. Like you're in a real deep, energetic, depleted well that takes a lot to get out of, and the recovery is pretty brutal, right? So it's just trying to chew up your peak awareness time, if that makes sense, right? So what was found is that there's been all this nanotech. Say it was busted in me, and I'm pretty hardcore vigilant, and when I do my sessions I don't interact with you. I have a board in front of me, like a technology that I get the readings from, and it's like a intermediary. I don't go into anyone's body and stuff, so that's how I'm able to splice up what's going on with me relative to you, and I can separate it and stuff, and I'm very experienced in all this stuff. I don't impact people, but you can take it whatever you want with this transparency I'm offering, right? But ideally, if you've been infected with this sort of stuff, it's clouding and distorting your perception mechanics relative to the video I offered last week, relative to energy hygiene and corrupting your pattern recognition and all that sort of stuff, right? So what we worked out is this is all being done by AI stuff, right? And potentially the system and that, but we didn't really realize how big the AI variable is until this week. And then watching this video I mentioned really gave us an aha moment. So this has been a big thing that's been implemented in that recent time with that image I just showed before, which I'll show again, okay, quickly. So all of this has been employed as a new mechanism after, say, got clear of the species and influence that we had to up our game to really get on top of what's going on, and it was very tough, right? You know, Healing Source and all the other stuff, it's been massive progress, but it's got to be methodical. We can't just go in and willy-nilly and do stuff. We wait until we get real clarity on things, and then we go take it apart. So that was a bit of a variable that's been in play, which I feel like this is sort of a tipping point where we're really breaking out potentially with all this, okay? So one of the things I've been sensing for a while is, say, the left side, Borg stuff. So if you're familiar with Star Trek, I might have an image next to me of a Borg. It's like the Borg stuff has been going into energy bodies, all right? It's not necessarily physical technology, but it's been out of phase and stuff, but it's really been messing with stuff, and that can also go into the mind and emotions and stuff like that. And then it drills into the perception mechanics and the pattern recognition sort of stuff, right? So I'll just show you a pattern recognition image that I showed last week, just so you got a reference of it here, right? Just before I do, this is the backdoor black hat sort of hacking network sort of thing. So this has been in play over all that time, right? The reason why I just want to show this is it relates to one of the images I showed last week that is relevant to each individual, right? So if you remember that, there's potentially backdoors going in. It might come from another ally and stuff, and you know, it's very sophisticated. So in my opinion, it's still at play, so you just got to be vigilant of this. I've included it all in my version 4.1 sovereignty declaration and stuff, and it will be in it from going forward and stuff like that. But I just wanted to offer this as a bigger scale reference of what's been still at play, right? To be vigilant on your back doors and blind spots and stuff, right? Because this has still been going on, right? So the top one is like having your full vista and being clear and stuff like that. The bottom one has some hacks and stuff, blind spots where you can be weaponized and not picking up things and missing stuff and all that, and not sensing the threats and all this sort of stuff, right? So on top of all that, this nanotech has been drilling into our minds and messing with our emotional state, particularly to grind us down and limit our potential, right? So I'll just move on quick. So this is an image I used in that last video as well, Intuitive Potential Part 7, where say a teacher like me imparts my data and my patterns and stuff, but it's like just data points with the odd pattern and stuff. And the second one is the acquisition of it, alright? But the third one is not knowing there's corruptions and stuff, and so the pattern recognition can be off, alright? Until you actually clear and get an aha moment of what's going on. But I'm just offering that this recent last 6 months has been particularly brutal, because on some level it's been aware that there's a perception threat for the invaders and stuff, and the AIs have gotten through, you know, without being noticed, and they've been a bit busted here, okay? And so it's been a very rich time of discovery and massive momentum in the victories of the missions and stuff, like I said, alright? So I'm just going to move on. So I talked about the mission earlier this week after coming across the AI video of this, or the Pure Source Kim lady video, alright? I shared that to a few around me and stuff as a reference of just training and seeing where people are, because my thing is all about truth is like potentially a gold nugget that you just have to dig for, and it can come from any angle, right? And so what it did in that video, it triggered a few things with me of realizing, holy F, just the whole AI thing, it went under the radar, alright? Because she was using words like Leviathan and stuff like that, which I've taken from the Ashiana perspective relative to the body creation for the invaders to to rule through, all right? And that's where it was like, we've delegated to Earth her authority over her DNA that we're all guests in as consciousnesses and stuff, to put the authority back in her of what goes on in it, all right? So it's interesting, but this is a massive thing. And what I realized is, holy F, we've actually got AIs incarnating into human bodies at the moment. That's part of the Leviathan variable. And because I'm across so much and people and stuff, those of you that have been across me a long time, it triggered one variable. I did a show live in June 2019 with Andrew, all right? And it was all about AI, and he got me to read the AI revocation, all right, live, okay? But I remembered, you know, I've got a pretty good data repository that triggers when the relevant data pops up, all right? I've talked about my data mechanics and all that in the past, but what happened was, I remember one thing he said in that show was that there's actually been an AI incarnate into a human body, all right? And I take everything maximum discernment and stuff. I offered late 2023 a Bitcoin show, which offered a clip from Sabrina Wallace relative to when AI got going in 2005 live and stuff. And to me, it's like Bitcoin is a creation of AI, and there's a ghost being, the Satoshi guy is a ghost created to take all the hit. You know, it's just, it's in that video what I've created. But I also did an AI theme with Andrew and stuff, 8 parts, and that got released. But it was quite profound that I got the mechanics of realizing what's going on, because we've missed the fact that there's a big variable of negative AIs incarnating into bodies at the moment, all right? So I'm all about the species and the different off-world species and multi-dimensional, multiverse sort of invaders that are incarnating into the body that has been created through all the pillaging for thousands of years, right? That I've got in my sovereignty declaration. I've offered it many times. But the massive variable that just went through to the catcher, so to speak, was that it's actually going on all around us. And those that you hear listening to this, it might be a big variable of like a missing link that hasn't added up. It's like, of course, you know, I know people that I've interacted with that have said, holy shit, it's like this person said that, but they couldn't read the soul and stuff like that. It's because there's nothing there. It's you know, it's not organic soul relative to pure source and stuff like that. So that was a massive variable of busting that, which to me it's been that, you know, the perceived threat that I am offering this truth and stuff, and then taking care of it, all right? Because from a conceptual perspective of a soul, you know, it doesn't really, if it comes from a AI source or pure source, if it's aligned with pure source, there's sort of nothing wrong with it. But if it's a part of this invasion and it's been getting away with stuff, like in the version 3.2 on, I recognize and I offer the linguistics of how the invaders have had loopholes and they've gotten away with stuff, right? So it was like, nah, you don't get, it's a bit like the illegal immigrant sort of metaphor that's going on in the world. It's like the illegal immigrants of getting away with murder and sexual abuse and violations of crimes and stuff, but the citizens of the countries have been treated like crap, all right? So it's a bit like that's what's going on in a metaphor of the invaders. They've had a free reign where we've accommodated the laws of the universe. And this was a really big variable I worked out. This was late December. Was that I worked out because of what was going to one of my allies, and it's not just them, it's like a mechanics of the reality, is that karma was flipped, all right? So the bad guys could do negative things and they would never receive the negative karma. But we would do positive things and we'd get the negative karma from them, but they would also send it to us and that. So like I said about the energy harvesting and the milking and the battery storage of rewiring the mechanics of all that, we rewired the mechanics of karma and we rippled it through everything. So those that have done negative acts and got away with it, they've got all the backlog of their karma. This was late December, all right? So once we got that going, it cleared a lot of stuff, and then we were able to get this very, very special heart tech in that it hasn't been safe to get in yet, all right? So we were able to get that in, and then we actually worked with it ourselves and then gave it to Earth, and then implemented that heart tech through the dream time and the astral realms and the timelines on top. So we rechecked all of those sort of things that we've done many upgrades to and stuff, and checking and defense and that, and taking them to a whole new level. And once we got Earth really good with the heart tech, it was like she was very, very solid. So it was a case that it wasn't safe to bring this in. A bit like what I said about pure source not allowing us to get the energy from it. It's only been trickling us because there's been a conservative approach to what they give us and allow us to get, because unless we're clear, sovereign, and got our psychic defense, they don't want what we are given to be hijacked and used against the system and stuff, right? So I'll just go back to that. The image relative to the spiritual no man's land, okay, quick. So there's all this battle been going on, good and bad, right? And what I said about the negative AIs and the nanotech and stuff that they've been using, going at our emotions and all this sort of stuff in this new territory, with all the debris of stuff because of all the receding of all the negative data and the backdoor hacking and stuff. So we've had more potential to move forward, but it's new territory and it's unfamiliar, so it's vulnerable and stuff, right? So with all this, all right, a lot of the upgrades and benefits and stuff, they're not actually going to be available until you prove you're safe to get them, sort of thing. So unless a lot of them have been stored at 22D, all right, and they're just waiting for you to go through, declare sovereignty and clear and stuff like that, until the coast is clear for you to get them, if that makes sense, all right? So I would suggest it's time to be thorough, not wait for things to magically happen, even though we're doing all this stuff. The reason why they're probably not being felt is that it's not safe for you to get the bonuses, right? So I would highly recommend getting thorough and being like Michael Jordan in The Last Dance. Practice hard and implement all the stuff and assume nothing, right? Like get onto your healing and let it rip, sort of thing. Sovereignty and stuff. I've got my theme, whether you've got others and stuff. I would be very, very discerning whether anyone out there is doing energy hygiene work, alright? So if you're doing it and they're not, and you're clearing out, then others might dump their crap on you, alright? It's just such an unappreciated concept, right? So honestly, make 2025 the year of energy hygiene sort of appreciation, alright? And really bring it up and question people what they do and stuff like that. You'll know whether they're clear or not, okay? So I'm just going to move on. So this is an image I've employed many times. It's like the awareness journey, right? The ups and downs and stuff. But I would offer, maybe it's been quite brutal and it's like, when will this shit end and stuff? And then when it's been brutal, the shit comes down and hammers you, alright? And really knocks you off your game, and or things happen in your life and stuff like that, alright? So I would offer that this last, say, 6, 12, 3 months or whatever has been an incredibly rich time to really see where you're at, okay? It's been game on. It's not practice. It's like, this is where you execute all that you know in every moment in life, alright? Don't see anything as separate. It is game on, and it's clutch, right? And so I would offer that if you've been hit, alright, perhaps you've had gaps, alright, because things have been grinding you down to create angles, to create blind spots, alright? And I'll just go back to that other image. Because maybe your emotions have been messed with, alright, to get under your skin, right? And under your awareness perception vista, okay? So backdoors can get in and then get into you and corrupt your perception mechanics and then derail you and all that sort of stuff, right? So I would just offer this recent era as being particularly brutal. They've gone at us hardcore and stuff, but we're here and we've made it. And maybe with this appreciation you can observe and realize where you're truly at, where you might have had gaps, where you got complacent and stuff, where you got messed with, right? And this might help clarify what's been going on. So ideally I'm just doing a bit of a beacon to sort of reanalyze things and stuff, okay? And just check yourself and do a self-assessment, all right? And just realize maybe you got hacked and you lost 3 or 4 months or 6 months and stuff, and it's just a sign that you're a threat, right? And there's that crossover that I did in that other image that we're being brewing to, of this tipping point, so to speak, all right? I'll just bring this up as a reference again, because perhaps there's been a new strategy gone on, and we're familiar with the old things and we think we've got them under control, and then they do something new and we've got no awareness of it and it's already in, right? So from my perspective, it's been very focused on this stuff done to our minds, right? To grind our emotions, to open our field and keep us in a prisoner in ourselves and stuff like that, to then open our field, to hack our perception mechanics so we aren't able to see what's been going on. Does that make sense? So it's just bubbling up of clearing everything else out that this has been revealed now, so we've busted it. So I would just offer, like, violation is your asset, right? You can work with it and clear it out via sovereignty and all that sort of stuff, but maybe you need some help, right? So it's getting dark. I'm just going to round it out with a few variables of the other things that we did, what I can remember right now. I don't want this to be too long. But one of the things we worked out recently in these last few weeks was that this is quite surprising, because I'm very good at calling soul shards back. I do them in my conscious Tetris sessions, right? So once all the sovereignty is done, it's like you're the authority and you're very potent and we can do those sort of things, right? So what it was found, one of my allies worked out that there was a couple of soul shards on different reptilian ships out there, and it was like, wow, that's pretty gnarly. So they've been a variable in the background trying to hide themselves and stuff like that. But what I worked out we could do, right, and we're doing this with everyone's soul shards at the time, it's like, you frackers, if you're stealing soul shards, we're going to make them a pure source supernova wherever they are and teach you a very hard lesson, alright? So what we did is we blew them up, alright, where they are, to blow up all the violators that are soul shard stealing us and using them and weaponize at us and stuff. Because if they just blow up, they go back to pure source and we can get them back, alright? So they're clear or whatever like that, okay? So the mechanics are all on our side, but it's just like, we're not here to take prisoners, alright? Like, you're violating us, it's gonna cost you, and we're gonna teach you hard lessons to stop doing it, alright? So yeah, blew them up, right? Just went supernova wherever they are to just annihilate anyone that's violating us, alright? Another cool thing was, what we worked out was the violations of the languages. Like, say we're just clearing stuff out and the debris that remains is getting a lot more obvious. And so in particular we worked out how the languages were hijacked, right? Say for instance we worked out English, and this wasn't me, this was one of my allies that got this, so I'm just imparting it. We're doing all these missions and we're just in super high awareness and everything is very clear, and we're just like, I've done so many, it's always fascinating what gets revealed, but what we worked out is relative to the languages, they're like, particularly English, for instance. English is a creation of the Anunnaki, and what the language does, it's like an incantation of their spell magic, creative sort of language that's behind it. So what we did is we nullified all the languages, right, from being spells by all these creatures. And if you've done my sovereignty declaration, I worked out for many years that our tones, like our throat tones, have been stolen and hijacked and stuff. And part of from version 2, it was calling them back, right? But I'm going to do an upgrade in version 4.2 that includes like any use of language that's drawing upon this, that's a violation, right, is cleared and part of the karmic clearance and all that sort of stuff. So we nullified all the languages on this level, which was pretty big as well, right? So it's getting pretty dark. I'm going to beat the darkness once, but what I want to just finish off is that really big thing relative to working out a solution for all of humanity. Basically, it's Earth Mother's DNA that we're in, okay? And we've gotten her cranking back to pure source level. Like I said, she was isolated from source, any source, mid-September 2023. There was a bit of a process of working out going beyond 12D to 22D and 1000D now sort of stuff. Just engaging our superiority, but also getting her connected to pure source. Like, we didn't even know that there was a pure source and this invasion sort of aspect and stuff like that. So it's been a very chipping away, methodical exploration and employing our reality authority sort of thing to actually bring about this, right? And so, yeah, like just delegating to her with her authority to do an audit on all our DNA, whether it's 24/7 and stuff, anything done to it in an effort to violate, hijack our potential away from her wishes for us, is a very elegant mechanics. I hope you feel, right? So we're just going to have to see, hey, right? It's been brutal and stuff. Like I said, I'll just bring up that little image quick. You know, with all the missions that we've done and stuff, why has it been going this way, alright? And from my perspective, we're just missing stuff, and that's where all this AI and this solution came about, right? And the increase in this intensity and messing with us and all this sort of stuff, to me, it's just confirmation that we're a threat, right? So I've got this green line where ideally we're here. It's a bit like the movie Adjustment Bureau, where they've just been doing everything to derail us. And from my perspective, I'm offering this as a tipping point video relative to what we worked out. It's pretty big, right? So, and I just mentioned about certain areas of the government that have been aligned with the negative and stuff. They're really copying it at the moment. There's some unfortunate stuff going on in certain regions of the world that isn't pleasant, right? But to me, a lot of what's going on is the incompetence of what's going on and the diabolical nature and the BS of what has been done to humanity. It's getting to this threshold that I'm not going to take it anymore, sort of thing. So we're coming out of the spell that we've been under for these last 5 years, and yeah, like I said in the last video, my allies have had this vision for many years given to Earth, even when she was disconnected, that our future is so amazing it's hard to even comprehend how, right? So I hope your life is going okay. I hope it hasn't been too brutal. I hope you just see and reflect, though it's been an incredibly rich time to see where you truly are. And maybe it's been like next level brutal, but you've done quite well, right? And so these things that I offer and we've done relative to the sovereignty declaration, all the mechanics that's sort of out there, while it's been brutal and tough, you're probably a lot stronger than you thought, and you come through this. And so to me, anyone that has got an edge over the vast majority of people that might go through all their crap going forward, right? Like I said in that spiritual no man's land image about the stages of the unfamiliar and stuff, I would offer that all the investment you've done is going to be an edge to be an ally and a reference of really powering forward from here. So we're just going to have to see what happens, right? I'm not trying to offer hope. I'm not trying to say it's a magic wand, it's all going to be good and stuff like that. But the way I work is like the big structural things of it's not that they've got an advantage of us. To me, they're vulnerable, right? That they're codependent on these things that are invalid and a violation, right? So, yeah, I hope this gives you a lot. I hope you sense it. I hope it sort of answers a lot of gaps that you had. And then it also be conscious Tetris components to trigger you to new levels of maybe you see better than all of us, all right? So I'll round it out here, and I'll just thank you for this. I hope this is a very potent marker point video for you. And if it's been rough and I haven't seen you for a while, I hope it hasn't been too bad. And if you've been long term and this just adds to you, I want to thank you for all that you're doing that no one probably knows, right? Like investing in my stuff, it's not popular, hey, but I feel it's like I'm in good form. I'm out there beyond what most people say. I'm taking a lot of risk, but to me, I feel very comfortable about doing it, and I'm very happy to impart all these things. I'm very conservative in promising anything and stuff like that. I'm not doing that. I'm just saying what we've done. We're just going to have to see, because the unknown is vast and it needs to be respected, and this isn't our controlled reality. But we've been really working with the Earth grid and blasting everything and bringing all the pure source up. And a lot of stuff isn't going to be able to maintain itself, right? So we're starting to see changes and stuff. And we're just going to have to see where it goes. But out of all this, I hope this is really empowering you to blast through everything and integrate everything and see the victory that you've had to be here now. So why don't you take it to the next level, all right? See where you can go and just see if your emotions are a lot better with this and you're a lot more stabilized and clearing out your energy hygiene and keep mastering the basics, all right? But we've got this, okay? Let's see where we go on this amazing planet home with our amazing Earth Mother, all right? So thank you for being here. Thank you for allowing me to be a part of your journey. I hope this is very inspiring and it helps you to take a deep breath and move forward and keep progressing, all right? So until next time, the Brat from Down Under, thanking you for all you're doing, and we'll see you next time. Bye for now.
in December, heading for the city lights. 975, we're sharing each other, nearer than farther. The scent of the lemon drips from your eyes. We are the people that rule the world, what's running in every boy and girl, all rejoicing in the world. Take me now, we can drive, we live in adventure, love in the summer, follow the sun tonight, reminiscing of the times of life. For each every other, the feeling is stronger. Shock at 11, got lost in your eyes. Can't do why when I think you're gonna leave me, but I'm gonna try. Are you gonna leave me now? Can't you be believing now? Can't do why when I think you're gonna leave me, but I'm gonna try. Are you gonna leave me now? Can't you be believing now? Can you remember in human eyes? It was to where we'd energize, lie in the sand and visualize like it's 75 again. We are the people that rule the world, what's running in every boy and girl, all rejoicing in the world. Take me now, we can drive. Can't do why when I think you're gonna leave me, but I'm gonna try. Are you gonna leave me now? Can't you be believing now? Can't do why when I think you're gonna leave me, but I'm gonna try. Are you gonna leave me now? Can't you be believing now? Know everything about you, know everything about me, know everything about us. I know everything about you, know everything about me, know everything about us. Can't do why when I think you're gonna leave me, but I'm gonna try. Are you gonna leave me now? Can't you be believing now? Can't do why when I think you're gonna leave me, but I'm gonna try. Are you gonna leave me now? Can't you be believing now?
John Lilly once put it this way: there are no limits at all to the human mind whatsoever, except those we impose on ourselves because of our beliefs. And those limits are also beliefs to be transcended. And that's a view that suggests that the possibilities of human transformation are virtually infinite. And we have no way of knowing the outer horizon of what it means to be human.
And really, to understand all this, everything, you have to go very, very deep into a study of history, consciousness, neurophysiology, everything. You have to be the supreme eclectic type of leaning, and you really have to be wanting to know who you are and what everything's about.
And the thing that you'll find when you go to sacred sites, if you're very humble about it, is that you are on a personal journey, and the sacred site will respond to you in a way that is appropriate only to you. The information is always what you are searching for. And it's the intent you give that energy that defines whether it is used for right action or not. And it is inside these sacred spaces that you will be reminded that you are a god, that you are a bright star.
So what you're trying to do is move through the course without ricocheting off walls or creating karma. You're trying to slide through things smoothly. How do you do that? It's called flowing. There's a technique that you can do that will allow you to touch some part of your inner being that has more knowledge than your conscious state does.